But the question is here. Somebody reading your article is saying, hey, wait, the Catholic is invited to hold two things at the same time. Love the person and ensure the person retains their full dignity as a child of God. And then they will then jump in and say, well, why do they need God's grace and God's healing?
Because the struggle is real. Because we know people who are attracted to the same sex have a higher incidence of suicide than others. Because the challenge of growing up is so daunting for the average teenager. Is a daunting challenge. And for those with same-sex attraction, it's even more daunting. And that's why we need God's love, God's mercy, and God's healing power.
And I want to throw in something here, something that we discussed, something that was in your article, where you said shaming is a sin.
It absolutely is a sin.
Right.
Because it's judging. It's
correct.
Judging.
And we have shamed them by and large, not because we felt uncomfortable, because it was not who we are as heterosexuals. By and large, many people shamed them, and it shamed them into hiding even more. And this in itself brought on depression, anxiety, and and a whole feeling of being less than.
Unworthy.
Yes.
Unworthy of dignity, of being a human being, etc., etc., etc. I want to go back to the thing that the Catholic is invited to hold two things at the same time. Love the person and ensure the person retains their full dignity as a child of God, in need of God's grace and healing. And also, the Catholic needs to help the person understand why the act is morally wrong, why it is both unnatural and sinful. And that's from the Catechism of the Catholic Church, CCC 2357. So we are asked both to love the person, but also to be truthful. That the homosexual act is not within the realm of Christian morality. Why do I say that? Well, the sexual act, if you go back to Genesis, always has had two ends, always, from the very beginning. And one end is unification of the spouses, and the second is the procreation of children. And every sexual act should be open to both the unification and the procreation. And that's where sexual morality works, and that's the limits of sexual morality. And I often do this with young people. So if it can't do both unification and procreation, therefore it is not a moral act. So that's why masturbation is not a moral act, because it only all it is the pleasure of one person. It's not a unification act, and it can't produce nothing. That's why sex outside of marriage is not a moral act, because it's not the unification of the spouses, it's it bringing together the two bodies, and not the unification of the spouses. Because a child deserves to have both a mom and a dad, the act of sex needs to be in the context of marriage, so that the child will have both mom and dad there to love and nurture them for the whole of their life. And that's why Catholic sexual morality is what it is. And there are many acts that are there for the unification. So the homosexual act they could claim unification, but it's not there for the procreation of children. It can't do that. And therefore it's not a moral act. And so for sexual ethics, or for the sexual act to be moral, you need the sexual act both to be unification, and that's not the bodies coming together. That's the permanent commitment of the bodies as a context for bringing a child into the world, and the child being the fruit of the sexual act.